Okay, so today is the first day of Elul, the 4th of September, and Rosh Chodesh Elul is now. Today is the first day we blow the shofar. And yesterday we already started singing the David Hashem Oli V'ishi. So we're building up towards this, we said, a long discussion of the multiplicity in nature. So before that, we still have to say one more point he has here, which is going to serve us in the end, regarding the next two words of Shema. So we started with Shema Yisrael, and we talked about what Israel means, what Yisrael means. We talked about Hashem's will, and that it means that He has a head, meaning He has a skull, He has a will, and the will is embodied in the Jewish people. So that was yesterday. Now he continues in chapter 18 of Shorish Mitzvah Tefillah in Derech Mitzvah Secha. V'nei perush v'inyan havaya Elokeinu u'b'chinat yichud ava ve'ima. So we already explained that the next two words in the first verse of Shema, Hashem Elokeinu, Havaya Elokeinu, is the unification between the father and the mother, meaning wisdom and understanding. And in the Zohar, they are called Shem B'chinat Rein Re'in Delo Mitparshin. They are called two companions who never part, wisdom and understanding, meaning they appear together. And in philosophy, this is what they called, he says, B'chinat Ayin Ve'yesh, the nothingness and the being. These two things never part. They're always together. Nothingness and being. Nothingness being that there's no being, and being that there is something. So wisdom is the nothingness, and understanding, bina, is the being. שאור אינסוף מאיר ומתגלה בחוכמה עילה, כמו שכתוב הוויה בחוכמה, as we said, that the infinite revelation of Hashem can only appear and reveal itself through the supernal wisdom. As we said, Havaya b'chokhma. Hashem is in chokhmah, in wisdom. So wisdom, because it's nothingness, because it's the closest thing to nothingness in our reality, it can contain the infinite revelation of Hashem. Because otherwise there's no vessel that can contain it. So this vessel has to be a vessel of self-nullification. And through wisdom, it then appears and is enclosed in understanding. And from there, the infinite revelation of Hashem is drawn down into concealed worlds. What is this concealed worlds? Where do we have concealed worlds? So today somebody would say that's like the whole quantum world. Everything that we don't see. I can see so far, and then suddenly there's many, many concealed worlds. And there's a lot of basis for saying that the atoms and certainly subatomic particles, all these are like many concealed worlds that are running in the background without us seeing them. Of course, in the earlier tradition, there was no knowledge of atoms or subatomic particles. So the understanding was that these are angels. That's what they were called. What are angels? Different types of angels, but many of them. But first of all, what we need to know is, and I said this is leading up to the multiplicity part, that there's far more angels than there is anything else in the world. And it's a very interesting medrash. It says that
the Rabbi always said, because he wrote supernal beings. The Rabbi did not like the word angels.
Okay.
They had a Christian connotation. Just saying.
The literal translation, in all the literature, it appears as malachim.
Yeah, malachim.
And the literal translation is like angels. But if
the angels. Okay.
Okay. Very interesting. So the Medrash says that even in the first word of the Shema, listen, hear, Shema. So we said that this Shem Ayin, the name of 70. What exactly that is, we talked about it. I don't want to get back into it. But another thing that the Medrash says is that the ayin there is a large ayin. We said it's a major ayin, so it's much bigger than the regular ayin. in the Torah scroll. And Israel are 1 out of 70 nations. Okay? Meaning that there's at least 70 times more non-Jews than there are Jews in the world. Like even if I were to count in just quantity. Today it's a lot more than just 70, it's more like 1,000 times more. But let's say there's many, many hidden Jews that we don't know about. So maybe it is 70 even today. Could be that there's 10 times as many Jews as we think that there are. Well, we don't know. Again, we're not looking for anybody. We're not saying somebody is or isn't. Right. Even if they are, they have to convert. You can't be accepted as is, but now the nations, says the Medrash, are 1 out of 70 of the domesticated animals. The domesticated animals are 1 out of 70 of all the life forms on earth. And then it says that the life forms on earth are only 1 out of 70 of the... It even has another stage in the middle, I don't remember what it was, maybe even 2 stages, and then finally at the end, all this is 1 out of 70 out of the malachim, out of these angels, supernal beings. So what's it saying? It's telling you that these supernal beings are far more than anything else that you know. And that's the picture that we have today of the quantum world. That there's far more atoms and subatomic particles than there is anything else. Right? It's a very interesting because
that isn't. That's a
so something that's not well known. He mentions this medrash in passing here.
Yes.
שנהנים מזיו הוא על ידי, וגם גן עדן העליון שנהנים מזיו הוא על ידי שמקבלים מבחינת בינה. And everything in the world, including these angels, everything, even in what we call the supernal Garden of Eden, the supernal paradise, where they enjoy they enjoy basking in the light of God's revelation. The supernal, it can be the souls, everything that has any contact with the revelation of God receives it through Bina. It receives it through the sphere of understanding. So it has to go from wisdom to understanding. If it doesn't go into understanding first, there's no conception of it. Another way of saying understanding is conceptualizing. Bina, we said, is being. So it's about allowing us to conceptualize something. In wisdom, it's entirely nothingness. It contains the revelation, but the revelation is completely incomprehensible. When it goes into Bina, it becomes comprehensible in some way.
And limited to a certain degree.
Of course, right.
Yes.
It has to become more limited. Ki ima mekanana bekulsaya, because the mother, which is Bina, it sits in the throne. What's this throne? So we explained this many times. This is the world of Bria, the world of creation. And the throne designates, it's a symbol for God ruling the world. Ruling the world. So what would we say? We would say that the analogy is like this. Then when God is in his private chambers, nobody has any revelation of him. Nobody knows anything. It's completely hidden. It's only when he sits on his throne to judge that suddenly somebody knows something about him. The same thing that you don't know anything about what happens during the day for any of the ministers of the government. When do you hear about them? When they rule something, when they make a law, suddenly you hear about them. What they do the rest of the time, you don't know. So who can go into them the rest of the time? Only the wise. In other words, when we come in contact with the government, the ruling, whatever, in Israel, America, wherever it is, so we come in contact with their being already. And their being means that they want to exercise their power. But we don't come in contact with them before that. Who comes in contact with them before that? The advisors, the wise people. What's the condition for someone coming in contact with what's behind the scenes? That they're nullified. That they don't come to go against. It's not at the level of being yet. It's not yet at the level of, okay, what goes into practice. There's no conceptualization yet of the discussion, of the policy discussions, whatever it is. This all remains behind closed doors. You don't see it. Same thing by Hashem. How Hashem is before He reveals Himself in the world. It's like you can only be privileged to that if you're in nullification. Once it's in the world, then everybody can enjoy it. And here we're talking about the most benevolent king. So the enjoyment, the conceptualization of Hashem's revelation is good for everyone. ואין שכתוב בסידור הפסוק עד נשפתי תפתח בדרוש דרוש השנה בעניין בכל דברי אלוקים חיים. So he sends us to a mimer from his father, from his grandfather, which was written in the Siddur by the Mittler Rebbe, his father-in-law. And it's on the pasuk, Adni Sfasai Tiftach, Hashem opened my lips. And this appears in a drush on Rosh Hashanah. And this is a very important drush that I think we'll come back to at some point, because it talks about the multiplicity of beings. And then it there says, Bekol divrei Elokim chayim. There is the sound of the words of the living God. It's like a phrase that we have in the liturgy. So what's going on here? We have the living God, Shu mibchinat bina nikra Elokim chayim. Bina is called living God. Why do I call Him living God? Because there's a God that I don't know about. I don't see the life coming from Him. I know He's there, but I don't. When I say Elokim chayim, I don't mean that He's alive or dead. What I mean to say is that we feel the life coming out. And that's only from Bina. Only from understanding can this be conceptualization that I am receiving my life force from Hashem. And again, this is, it's hard to stress. I mean, we're talking about this so technically. But really, what is he saying? He's saying that without this contemplation, a person lives his life thinking that the life force is internal to him. He thinks he has his own battery inside. Mm-hmm. That's how we feel. That's when you're healthy, that's what you think. You said it before, when you feel good, you overdo it. Yeah, right. Why? Because I think it's all very easy. But there's really no such thing as overdoing it, but it has to depend. It depends on being able to do more and more, is that I feel that all my life force is coming from Hashem. If I feel that it's somehow from me, and I'm a self-contained, self-generating, self-sustaining creature, that's where I run into trouble. So even though this is a very technical discussion, it's not technical at all. He's trying to impress upon us that you have to have this process of nullification and then being in order to receive the life force from the real place where it's coming from. Otherwise, you live in this, again, everything is hidden from you. You don't know what's going on. And you're shocked every time that things fall apart. Why did they fall apart? Because you had no connection to the source. You were running on something, but you had no idea that it's like a person who buys a car and is never told that the car runs on gas. And once in a while you have to look at the gas meter, and if you need gas, you have to go fill it up. And he doesn't know, and suddenly, car sputters and then stops. What happened? Because he didn't know that you're connected to Bina. You have to have Bina. You have to have some knowledge, some wisdom, some understanding how this thing works. And if you're oblivious to it, it doesn't just continue working forever. Something's missing. So everybody has difficulties in their life, and then even people who are atheists, they come and say, "So what did I do wrong?" They go look at the instrument panel and say, "Okay, what did I miss here?" So they won't call it God, but they'll say something was wrong. Something. So there's something hidden behind all of this that needs to become conceptualized. So living God means that I have an understanding that my life force is coming from Hashem. And thanks to this, now we understand why none of the other names of God, there's holy names of God, the 7 holy names, none of them are conjugated as possessive. Meaning, We don't say Havayateinu, our Havaya. We don't say Tzivotenu, our hosts. We don't say Adonenu. We don't say any of these things. What do we say? We only say Elokeinu. Elokim becomes Elokeinu. Elokim is the name associated with Bina. So that becomes Elokeinu. Why? כמו בשם אלוקים, שנאמר בו אלוקינו, רוצה לומר שהוא שלנו. Meaning that we feel that it's us. We feel that it's ours. Because it's our life force. It's very intimate. It's not just something like Torah. Torah is something very high. It's very transcendent. The life force is very intimate. I feel it flowing through me. People don't say, I feel Torah flowing through me. That's very strange to say. You could say, I think Torah all day long. I'm interested. But God is flowing through me. That's what I mean. That's what I mean by Elokeinu, our God. Our God means that He is my life force.
You know, this might seem very elementary, but this is the foundation of Amunah. Because, in other words, when something bad happens to you, or good happens to you, it's all from the same source.
Right.
And that's hard sometimes.
Very hard.
So this is, am I correct?
And the understanding is that the negative happens because I've forgotten about the source.
The negative,
it's only to
no. I'm trying to
the
get
positive also.
I'm saying the negative are, even if. Do you kind of get where I'm going with this?
Where I go with this all the time is that you can feel God. You don't have to look for God outside.
Yes.
You also, not that God is not transcendent.
Yes,
He's
yes,
also
yes,
transcendent.
yes.
But the immanent aspect of God is flowing through you.
Yes.
And you need to feel that.
Yes.
You need to be aware of that.
Yes.
The good and the bad. This is life. My wife says it the best, I think. Like whenever something negative happens to me,
yes.
Like now that I'm involved with this operation and this, she's like, "What do you want? All of this is godliness. This is your connection."
This is what I'm trying to
And I'm always very stuck on that. So I need to hear from her.
I'm stuck too. But this is a portal.
So you need to listen to my wife. She gives me like a 10-minute.
But she's saying this in concrete terms.
And she says it because she has a very strong awareness of this all day long.
My wife.
She's living with Hashem all the time. Constantly. ומכל מקום לא נאמר כן על שם הוויה ואקיה או שאר השמות. We don't say this about the other names. והעניין כי פירוש שלנו היינו שאור אינסוף המלובש באותו השם מתגלה ממש ומתאחד בנו. And again we say this, it's us, it's ours because it becomes unified with us. It's one and the same with us. וזה אי אפשר רק על ידי הצמצום. And this can only happen after the contraction from wisdom to understanding. וזה נרמז בשם אלוקים די כשהוא המצמצם. And this is specifically related to the name Elokim, which is the name of Tzimtzum. Elokim literally is our God, meaning it's God, but it also is used as the name designating the contraction, the limitation. So again, from the transcendent to the immanent, there has to be some kind of contraction in the middle.
And din is somewhere here too.
And that's why dinim come out of Bina. ובינה גם כן נקראת אלוקים, כי היא מקור הגבורות שיש בה. That's what you just said. Because Bina is the source of these gvuras, of these gvurot that contract, and there are also gvura is also din. There's also judgment. היי גבורות. ועל כל פנים מבחינה פירוש הווה אלוקינו, המשכת גילוי אור אינסוף בחוכמה עילה, ומשם בבינה שנמשך בנו גם כן להיות אלוקינו שלנו ממש. So in any case, when we say הווה אלוקינו, we're thinking about Havaya is what wisdom can perceive, which is the infinite revelation of Hashem, which is above the finite revelation that we receive here, the immanent revelation. So Havaya in this sense is connecting like to the transcendent, but so transcendent we said that it's even beyond any names. And then it gives it over to Bina, to Elokeinu, and it becomes Mamish Elokeinu. Mamish becomes who my life force is. It becomes me, me myself, and again, it's what's flowing within me. It's not that I am becoming, I didn't become God through this, but this is my battery. This is what's
right.
This is what's making me run, and not just making me run. It's also my existence. That's why we said the Bina is yesh. It's my being, my very being.
It's not outside of you,
right.
In that internal state.
Right. Okay, so we're in the middle of 18 and continue tomorrow with Lecture.